Okay, welcome to the video number 2 on 4. And with this video, we'll talk about the threat to biodiversity, how the different type of activity that we do have, unfortunately, that impact on the biodiversity and the ecosystem. You should have watched at this point the lecture prep number 1, which is about a 5-minute video explaining you the threat. And so if we summarize the threat, they can be, in fact, all summarized with an acronym called HIPPO for H, habitat destruction, I, invasive species, P, pollution, P, population, and then O for overexploitation. The double P can be, of course, reversed. The major threat on the biodiversity is, in fact, habitat destruction. So definitely the first one, the major one, is habitat destruction. And we can see that from this graph right here. You may think that, in fact, its number one would be exploitation by 37% versus 31% for habitat degradation of change. But in fact, see, they have distinguished in this graph habitat degradation and change with habitat loss. If we take habitat destruction as kind of both, we're moving up to a number that is almost 45%. So almost half of the threat is happening because we're removing the habitat or we're changing, impacting on the habitat of species, followed then by the extraction, which is in fact implicitly linked to the removal of the habitats in general, invasive species happening there. They took into climate change, but climate change has several different aspects, which is difficult to estimate, to be honest. We can see pollution, and they don't mention about the human population, but human population is also has a big impact. We can see that most of the species are declining over the last 40 years, more or less, from big vertebrates to small organisms. All of them tend to be, unfortunately, impacted by our human activities. So let's look at each of those recent threats on the ecosystem by looking at those 5 ones. Looking first at habitat destruction, a couple of examples of how we're removing the habitat of species through deforestation, that we cutting down trees, for example, for our resources, but also to plant crops instead. Bottom trawling, it's an activity or fishing activity that in fact use a net that put the net down to the ground in the sea, and in fact take all what is on the ground, and so it's just what is left is a desert. After that, there is nothing left, so it's just killing the full ecosystem under the sea. Our urbanization, by implanting our cities, also impact on the habitat of the species because we take the place of those species. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the agriculture is also another source of destruction for the habitat because we're taking away space where the species were living to place our crops, and also we're using products to make sure those animals are not coming back anymore. So the habitat destruction is definitely the most dangerous threat to the biodiversity. And we can see that it's impacting the birds, reptiles, amphibians, mammals too. I would say, of course, less fish because of the way the ocean is big. Exploitation tend to be the biggest one, the fact that we are overfishing, but still, even for fish, because of bottom trawling, we're removing the habitat of a lot of species. Another way, by instead of just taking the place of the habitats of those species, another way we degrading their habitat is by doing what we call habitat fragmentation, which is just like, for example, placing a street or building a road. And what happened is the ecosystem that was big with a big, maybe top predator such as a bear being fragmented, it won't be able to hold anymore to provide enough food for such organism. And so you are left with still the same surface, but fragmented it to 2 with smaller organisms. So you simplifying your ecosystem by doing habitat fragmentation, and degradation by adding some pollution into your ecosystem. You're also impacting on the ecosystem. The second one, invasive species. Invasive species, we have so many different examples we can be cited. It's when we come into a place voluntarily or involuntarily, and we bring a species that was not supposed to be there. The Great Lakes, for example, are suffering about an invasion of the zebra mussel, that is a species coming from the sea, and has found the Great Lakes to be a perfect habitat, and it's in fact invading all of the boats and places they can colonize. Kudzu is a plant that is found in South America and for some kind of reason was sent to North America to be sold as a nice plant. And the problem is kudzu doesn't have any predator in North America and it's invaded and recovering any habitation below that this what I'm showing you right here is in fact an habitation. And there is hardly something that can go against it. It's very, very invasive. We do have other couple of examples, like in Florida, they have issues with boa and python because of exotic importation. Mongoose has been also an animal that has been invading North America. The lionfish have been more and more invading the Caribbean Sea. This is, in fact, an animal that was not to be found in the Caribbean Sea, but it has been imported because, well, for aquariums was really nice to have. And so in about 25 years ago, if I'm making my calculation, yeah, about 25 years ago. So in 1995, only a couple of lionfish were found on the coast of Florida. Just in about 15 years, the number has just grown exponentially. This is in fact showing you how the distribution of the lionfish that has been unfortunately gone kind of crazy. We couldn't constrain them. We couldn't make sure that would not be reproducing. And so the distribution of the lionfish have been kind of going everywhere in the Caribbean Sea from 2009, 2015, and then 2027 was. So at this point, unfortunately, this is a specific, a great case of study of showing how an invasive species works so successfully. And so we could be asking, why are those invasive species so good at spreading, so good at kind of exploding their population? Well, if you think about it, it's mostly because they come to a place where there is potentially no predators, because their predators where they were living, well, we don't bring them with us. So they are facing species that they don't know who they are. And so they are totally out of any threat at this point. They have potentially no competitors because they came to a place that non-organism like that was there before. And they may be bringing disease with them that will impact on those other species, or they may be resistant to new to the potential local disease. And so for all of those reasons, invasive species tend to be very difficult to deal with, and they tend to colonize easily the new region where they arrive. The next one will be pollution. And well, everywhere we are, unfortunately, humans have polluted land, polluted ocean, polluted the ground. And so we've done that by, for example, using through agricultures, by using a lot of pesticides and chemicals that have unfortunately impacting on the birds and bees population. Those chemicals were then found after in the water, killing a lot of fish or impacting on their population. That happens through what we call bioaccumulation, which is in fact, from the fact that an organism will be exposed to a pollutant. It will absorb it probably by drinking or eating, but as you go up to the trophic level, this organism will be eaten by another one. This pollution will be added to the next trophic level, to the next organism who will be eating it. And as we go from the bottom part of the food web to the top part of the food web, we have an increase in concentration within the tissue of the organism. Because let's say that you have a pollution in the water, you will initially have maybe a pollution that is found here, what we call PPT. Then the base of the food web will be unfortunately filtering and taking these pollutants within it. And so this concentration kind of became 10 times bigger. So from 3 ppt, it's going to 40 ppt. Then these zooplankton, which are the base of the pyramid, will be eaten by fish. And at this point, you're increasing the concentration by another factor of 10. Then when you're moving toward the fish, you're increasing to a factor of about, 4 or so, and a factor of 10 when you're going into the birds. So the bioaccumulation is the increase of pollution as you go higher and higher in the food web, because of the fact that the higher trophic level will hit more and more organisms, and of course they will take more and more of the pollutants within them. An example in California was not so long ago found with a spotted owl had some rat poison in it, just because, well, those spotted owls were living in places close to some marijuana farms, and it seemed that to protect their farms, they use poison for the rats. And of course, those owls are hunting the rats, which has some poison, and they accumulate that poison into them, which in fact decline on their population because it's also very deadly for those birds too. So this is another issue. Our human population has been also a big threat to the ecosystem and biodiversity. We've been taking over all the world, covering about 60 to 80% of the surface. And over time, it has been shown that unfortunately, every time a human arrives on a place, over some hundreds of years, thousands of years, species gone extinct, especially for the megafauna extinction in some of the continents such as Australia, North America, or New Zealand. Any new emergence of human was followed by the extinction of some species. We do have the example in Australia right there, where the human arrived like about, let me see, 50,000 years ago, and within about 10,000 years after that, major megafauna from Australia disappeared because humans starting to hunt them, and they hunt them down up to the last individuals. The same year in North America or South America, where the human arrived about 20,000 years ago, more or less, within about the next 10,000 years, most of the megafauna from both continents disappeared. And another example in New Zealand. So unfortunately, human settlement, the propagation of human on the planet has been followed by the removal of species in this ecosystem. Final one to talk about would be the overexploitation. And so overexploitation, the idea that we're taking too much. And with that, I will just illustrate it with two things, meaning that we are consuming more than what we should do to live. That's what it means. We're consuming the capital more than what we're living. So going to the going over the capacity, the current capacity, meaning that we are on the overshoot. One of the major sectors doing overexploitation is the industrialized agriculture. We grow on crops too much for what the soil is able to do. We also grow cattle like crazy. We're asking in some way, we're producing an industrialized agriculture, which is not sustainable and tend to deplete our resources and also deplete the quality of the food that we are eating. Another one is, in fact, our fish production or fish consumption. At this point, we tend to have an unsustainable world's ecological fish print, meaning that most of the marine fish species tend to be overfished or kind of fished to the limit of sustainability. So meaning that we are taking too much from the sea. And one of the examples happened in the Canada around the 90s, where they were on the eastern side of the Canada, in the Atlantic seas around the 90s, they were fishing so much that in fact it declined all of the cod population, the cod were the fish they were mostly fishing. By around the 90s, they almost had no more cod in the sea because they were fishing up to the last of them. And they had to install new policies, regulation. Of course, the market of cod went very crazy with the price of cod getting very high, lots of unemployment because fishermen were not able to fish anymore. Huge issues on the market, on the job side also too. And through regulations, through new policies, it took about 10 to 15 years to little by little being able to replenish naturally, recover naturally the population of cod, which is not yet recovered from the previous, as we can see, from the previous issue. We see it's on the way, but still kind of behind. So there are a lot of issues regarding our overexploitation. On the side, also, we can talk about wildlife trafficking and plant trafficking. There is a black market happening, pushing people to do what we call poaching, which is to kill protected species, in particular to trade it illegally. We know, unfortunately, that there are lots of animals that can be like perfect pet, or they are like perfect decoration for the home. That can be the case for a Bengal tiger or the rhino horn. Why not a nice decoration in your home? And the value of that was from a couple of years ago. Panda has been sold to be a pet or just for the pet in itself. Plants too. Cactus look nice, orchids look nice, but some of them are protected. And just for you to know, for each of the animal they are selling on the market, in fact, 50 other has died, mostly during transit or mostly during the capturing time. So there is a huge loss between what in some way is being sold versus what has been captured. We're losing 49 individuals just for one. It's ridiculous at this point. This is part of the top 5 trafficking international trade that in fact provide, of course, a lot of money on the black market. The first one would be counterfeit and pirated goods. Second one, drugs. Third, human trafficking. Then arms trading, and finally, wildlife and plant trading. This unfortunately impact on the extinction of species, making them more vulnerable. It's at least about a third of those trafficking kind of happening on endangered animal species, meaning species that are very close to extinction will come with a definition of endangered and threatened very soon. And then it's about 8% of the plant species. So there is a lot of pressure on those species, unfortunately. And there was a case in a couple of years ago, 10 years ago in Los Banos with a hare that was also poached, killed illegally just for the wood. Just to end up finally this video, we'll talk about the case of orangutan in the Borneo Island. At the beginning of last century, there were about 300,000 wild orangutan living in those islands. Nowadays, we are less than 30,000 individuals left. So we are only 10% of the initial population, and it's reduced by huge amount, by about 1,000 individuals every year. So it's expected to be the first ape to go extinct because of human activity. Why is that? Well, we can see that in each island, the population is declining. And you can see that in terms of numbers. Also on the island, we see that over time, the habitat where we found those species is in fact less and less. The reason behind that is those islands are making palm tree and we're extracting the palm oil for our industry. You find palm oil everywhere. And if I'm correct, your next green mission will be on palm oil. So unfortunately, we're clearing those forests to make our palm oil production. Also, orangutan is kind of very good in terms of price wise. It's making a lot of money on the black market. They can sell them as pet for at least $10,000. And on the same time, they can also make a lot of money from their meat, what we call bush meat, when we are making meat from protected species to sell it on the black market. So for all of those reasons, unfortunately, this species is at risk of extinction within your lifetime, probably. With that sad news, I'll stop there for this video number 2, and I invite you to join me as soon as you're feeling ready for video number 3, on which we are going to talk about protection. See you later.